Alright, hold on, Alright. Hello everyone. So I'm very bored, alright? Not only do I not have my laptop now, I also got COVID last week, so I'm stuck inside for at least another 5 or 6 days. So I've been very bored, right? So I've taken the liberty to do some writing, obviously. That's what I do when I'm bored. So I was up last night. I think I was watching the YouTuber Pol, and they make like Friday Night Funkin' anime battle stuff, and it's really cool. And they've helped me like over the last couple months. They've inspired me a little bit for some of my action scenes. So I was thinking of some of the action scenes I've written recently and over the years, and I decided to make a top 10 not a glitch battles that don't exist yet. Yes, you heard that right. Top 10 battles that don't exist yet. So I'm basically just going to go off a list of battles that I actually know how they will go and how they're choreographed. And I'll add like obviously like shock factor and lore and stuff like that. I'm just going to read you these top 10 battles from Not a Glitch that don't exist yet. Okay. Number 1. Jolt's battle from New Gen. Now New Gen is very heart and soul of Not a Glitch. Every other source of like media that we make, any other like comic or show, will tie back to New Gen. Now Jolt's battle, I don't want to give spoilers for any of these fights because, you know, they might not even be in full development, and years later you might get spoiled. I don't know. So Jolt's battle is the final battle that takes place in New Gen's second life. And it's between him and his older brother turned villain, Jolt. And it's a really good battle. Number 2, unfair Jolt's battle. Now this takes place in New Gen's first life against his older brother. And his dad, who's also a villain. And their uncle, who then gets killed before the battle. In this battle, somebody dies, which is why the battle's unfair. Context clues to tell you who dies. Alright. Number 3, Show Beatdown. Now, I don't know why I called this character Show. I think I based him off a character I liked for my Mob Psycho, I think. But it's just because it was a kid, and he was really strong. I think there's like a bunch of strong characters that are children in Mob Psycho. It was something like that, my brain said. So I named him Show for now, but his name will definitely change in the future. Now, I thought it would be funny if I called it Showdown. But I thought that was really corny, so I just called it Show Beatdown. And it isn't like one of the most explosive choreographed fights on this list. In fact, like, it is literally just a battle between one guy and 8 good guys, right? But the thing is that they just came out of a big battle, or like a big like arc at this point, right? And they're going to get training, right? The main character, New Gen. And he's with his personas, which I've talked about before. Still working on a name change, right? And this guy comes out of nowhere, and Nugent's like, alright, I can take this guy, right? And he just absolutely folds Nugent in all of his personas, and then goes, ha, you're weak, and then just walks away. Just like that. Now, I'm not going to say who Show is, who he works for, but, you know, look forward to that. Number 4, Everlock Ambush. So, this is also a New Gen. The first couple are in New Gen. Back in the day, before New Gen was in like a good stage, I was still taking it out of the Kingdom Hearts stage that it was originally in and trying to make it better. And it was like in that stage where I had incorporated a bunch of random shit and I wasn't aware of copyright. And when I started being aware of copyright is when I was trying to take it out of that stage. So I remember there was like fucking Percy Jackson and Five Nights at Freddy's and Undertale thrown into New Gen at one point. And he was like gonna go to every world and become like the coolest guy ever. So I was in that stage of getting out of there, right? And my friend had this place called Everlock. And it was a town in the middle of nowhere that magical people lived in. Obviously, they don't use it anymore. So I took it. Since they never plan on touching that again, I took it, revised it, and made it my own idea. It's still very similar to the first idea, but very different. And in this Nugent Second Life, he's there. Before all the space war shit happens, he's hanging out there and learning how to use his powers when his older brother Jolts finds out where he is and bombs the whole place. Yeah, basically, and he attacks the whole place, and there's a big war, and a bunch of people die. Alright, next up, number 5, Distraction Dance. Distraction Dance. So this is a scene that I made from Personas, which will be getting their own show right after New Gen's Second Life, whatever that turned into a season. This show would come after, because what I want to do is like have a season of New Gen, have a season of a spin-off show, have a season of New Gen, have a season of a spin-off show. So, or I might have a show going on during New Gen if we go on a break or something like that, right? So, Personas is after the New Gen's versus Jolt's battle in his Second Life, and they decide that New Gen says, listen, I gotta go and help out and fix all the problems he's made in the last decade or so, and you guys gotta find something to do too, right? Like, you guys gotta go to a planet, right? So he sends them to Altera, which is like a replicate of Earth, except there's more magic there, and they're there for a bit, and they wind up like fucking up this guy's restaurant, and they have to work there to work off their debt, and they find humans that they become friends with or fall in love with and shit. Either way, this bad guy who's like, oh, Jolts is dead, I'm gonna go take over a planet. He decides to come to Altera. Bad choice, no clue that the Personas were there. And they wind up having to distract a bunch of the guards, because he's like this giant flying ship, right? And a bunch of his guards are taking over the city and stuff like that, and they gotta put up a distraction so that the other guys the other Personas can make it the ship. So all the girl Personas go in the middle of the street and they start dancing. Like with a boombox and everything. Well, technically Melody is a boombox, so she would probably play music. And it's just a funny scene. I got the idea from an MMD I watched once, and I was like, this would be great to see on a big screen. I'm surprised no one has done this before, or at least in this way that I saw it in the MMD. I don't really watch MMDs, but like, once in a while one would come with my recommendation. I'll watch like 30 of them, then forget about them. Just gonna get that out of the way for Jason Deku. Either way, back to it. Number 6, Jack's Moment of Power. So, this is from a series called Jack Adventures, which is another spin-off of New Gen, obviously. In it, Jack he has no powers, and he lives in a town of people with a bunch of powers. It's kind of like that plot of that fucking web series, Unordinary. I think that was it. Where there was like some guy and he's like, I don't have powers, and everyone else does. But then at the end it turns out he has powers and he's like the strongest guy or some shit like that. I don't remember. But I wasn't paying attention to it. I just know that my idea is similar to that. It wasn't based off of that webcomic. My idea was completely original. I just found out about the webcomic afterwards. So I'm just trying to get you accustomed to the idea. So there's like fucking vampires and werewolves and demon girls. You name it, right? And there's a scene where him and the girl character I made recently, which I forgot her name, but I made her when I was trolling around on a gacha game on Roblox. And I started actually making a good character. Osamo, that was her name. It was Osamo or Osano, right? And I made one of the cutest characters I have ever made. So I put her in a Jack's Adventure immediately, and she took over the role of some edgy demon girl who was there before, and she became a lot better. I'm not going to spoil her character because I really like her. But basically, there's this thing about Jack doesn't have any powers, right? And his girlfriend, Helen, gets kidnapped. Now, he's got to go in there and save her, right? From these fucking assholes at a school and a warehouse, right? But he can't do anything against them because they all have powers and shit, right? So what Asamo does is she lends him his demon powers because she doesn't like using them, and he's just absolutely cracked at using it because he's got all that rage pent up, and it transfers well into the power. So he wipes the fucking floor with all of them. So that's a great scene. A little bit of a spoiler for Jack's Adventure, but I'm not going to spoil anything else there. Okay. Number 7, Liz the Assassin. So this would be introduced in, I think, Season 3. If we're going by Nugent's Life as a Season 3 of Nugent, or Nugent's third life, right? That season, the beginning of the season would have Nugent's second life, when they're way older, after the battle and everything, right? And somewhere along the line, Elizabeth, one of my favorite characters I've ever made on Nugent, she became an assassin. Now, she was one of the personas that was living on Altair, paying up the debt. Eventually, Nugent came back, picked some of them up, asked them, "You want to come fight in the around the galaxy with me, or you want to stay here?" Some of them stay, some of them go with him, right? She winds up going with him, only then to depart eventually and become a fucking assassin. And the first, we get a whole scene where everyone's like, "Oh, so what has Elizabeth been doing these years?" And it'll just cut to her killing a whole building of guys. So it's just to show the characters have grown up, and I think it's a great scene, especially for Elizabeth, because she's badass, and she's one of my favorite characters ever made. She's like Black Widow meets hot anime character, Alright, next up, number 8, we have Jade's Labyrinth. So this was actually a short story I made before Nugent was being written, or around the time the general story was being written. I mean, Nugent was being written, but before the general story was in place. And I didn't know where I wanted to fit this, but it takes place in Jolt's castle that he has, because he has a castle. Why not? Why the fuck not, right? And he's got a bunch of guards and stuff like that. And Nugent, and I think 2 of his personas, and one of his teammates, one of the girl characters, they go into a castle at the very bottom. They sneak in to go up and look for one of their friends, right? And Jade, who is persona of another character, which I'm not going to spoil, she is a jester, right? This Jade person. She's I think the character is a mix of Harley Quinn and Lancer from Deltarune. I made this a long time ago, right? So she's batshit crazy, and she's also a big troll. She just trolls everyone, right? So she makes a bunch of death traps, and you go through a scene of the four of the characters trying to solve the death traps and trying to get out of there, trying to use acrobatics to get over the traps, and she's just in the background absolutely shitting on them, using kazoos and balloons popping and everything, trying to throw them off balance and stuff. And at the end, one of the characters, who's a very shy character, Lilith, right? She winds up actually stepping up and there's this dance floor, and they had to beat Jade at it, right? And Lilith, who's very shy, she actually practices dancing in a room. She winds up beating Jade, and at the end, she delivers this nasty sucker punch at Jade, and Jade explodes into a bunch of confetti. So it was just a very fun scene I made up. It's got a mix of a bunch of different social media scenes in it, because obviously it's hard to make anything really creative nowadays, but you can still be creative without absolutely ripping off other ideas. Alright, I am inspired by other ideas, but I do not steal those ideas. But people will definitely watch scenes from Nugent and be like, "Hey, that character looks like this character," or "Hey, I remember this thing in this show," right? That happens in every show, right? You watch, Rick and Morty's a terrible example. I can't think of an example, but you get what I'm saying. References happen to every show. There's no way to be completely creative nowadays, especially when you're writing and you get an idea that's so good that you want to incorporate. You can't do anything about that anymore. So, that's that. Number 9, First Explosion. So this is a very big spoiler. I will say very minimal stuff. Happens in Nugent 2. Very great character dies. One of my most favorite characters I've ever made. Top 15 characters I've ever made, right? And the person who's with her when she dies winds up basically exploding with power. You probably thought I was going to say they're dead. They wind up exploding with power and killing the people that killed her instantly, and then blacking out. And then this is a very important scene in Nugent 2, and you learn a lot from that moment. And you also be very sad, because At that point in time, when you're watching, you'll already be a few episodes deep. It's in the beginning of what would be the second season of Nugent's Second Life. And you're going to be very sad because you're going to grow very attached to the character that dies, and I'm going to rip her away from you. And it sucks because she's one of my favorite characters, but you got to kill off characters you like sometimes, right? That's how the story keeps going. That's how you make character progression. So, number 10 is Melody's Meltdown. So this will be more of a Christmas special than it being canon. Melody is a character from Nugent. She is one of Nugent's personas. And this is a scene I made while listening to a Nightcore Christmas song a couple years ago, back in like 2018. And Melody works in the way of like, she has those graphs on her eyes. You know those like DJ turntables you've seen? You got those circle things, and then like the beat goes up and down, and you see like a bunch of colors and bars going up and down. I forget the name. I don't feel like searching it up. Those are her eyes, basically, right? And she can emit music out of her mouth. She can't use regular words. She's like Bumblebee from Transformers. She's got to use music and radio clips. So, she's a very interesting character, and she, does all that. Music and stuff like that, right? And there's a scene where, I forget what happens, but I'm pretty sure people go after her because they find out she's in ties with Elizabeth, and a bunch of like bad guys come after her, and she's just hanging out, right? She's on vacation. She's chilling in this nice Christmas factory on a planet, and it's like this planet, it's full of snow, right? It's a very Christmas-inspired planet, right? And she's just having fun, and they show up in like helicopters and tanks and shit, right? Because Elizabeth is a very dangerous person, right? And they figure she's not gonna be, Melody's gonna be fine. They're gonna take her in, but they don't know if Elizabeth is gonna show up, right? But they underestimate Melody because she puts on a song, right? And then she goes out and she kills every single person out there, including the helicopters, the tanks, the turrets. All of them are dead. And at the end, she plops down in the snow with all the blood and bodies behind her, and she makes a little snow angel. And then it would pan out above the screen, and then you'd see the words "Merry Christmas" from Not a Glitch, and then that would be the end. It's just an idea for a Christmas special I had one year, and it has been one of my favorite fucking scenes I've ever made. So that's all I have written down. That is my top 10 fight scenes that don't exist yet. There was a couple other scenes I wanted to throw in there, but they weren't really fight scenes. So I thought I'd save those for either another list of scenes if everyone likes this, or something else. So that's it. Thank you all for watching. I'll try to find something else I can do soon, but for now, that's it. This has already been an 18-minute video, so I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all later.